a service of CNC Worldwide.
The Daily is a service of CNC and Jib Jab Greetings. I'm Bud Lowell, and your full AccuWeather forecast is always on top on your CNC local page. A Rochester man will deliver a petition to Monroe County Sheriff Patrick O'Flynn's office Thursday calling for a complete investigation into the shooting of a Penfield man's dog by deputies who came to the man's house for a parking complaint. Eddie Cintron put the petition up on the social media site change.org, and he got 7,794 signatures. Cintron says he's doing this because he's a fan of pit bull terriers and wants to stop the misconception that all pit bulls are aggressive and dangerous.
And just because of the bad publicity that they do have, because of their physical appearance, broad face, big head, and those are the main concerns of any canine owner, but especially the ones that have these particular breeds. We're asking definitely for, a complete review of the incidents. I mean, from the two officers that were involved, the neighbors in the community.
Animal rights activists protested outside the Monroe County Sheriff's Office earlier this week against the shooting of Diablo, a 7-year-old pit bull. Deputies responding to Gary Brockler's home for that complaint Friday night shot and killed the dog. The department says the dog ran towards the officers when they went to ask Brockler to move his car off the sidewalk. Cintron says he wants to thank all who signed his petition and Sheriff O'Flynn for his cooperation. A study done at the University of Rochester Medical Center has found a link between post-traumatic stress disorder and soldiers and hidden head injuries suffered in combat. The study, headed by Dr. Jeffrey Bazarian, looked at 52 veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars from around western New York. All of them served in combat between 2001 and 2008, and 30 of them had suffered one or more concussions from exploding ordnance or IEDs. All 52 veterans had one or more symptoms of PTSD. They believe they're the first to find an association between PTSD and concussion, what doctors call mild traumatic brain injuries, or TBIs. Dr. Bazarian says they found physical changes in the brain that can be seen with advanced imaging technology.
One of the things we've been seeing with our retired NFL players is if you have these what we call subconcussive head blows over and over and over again, that may predispose you to neurodegeneration and dementia down the line. So our whole thinking about this and where is the line in the sand between concussion and subconcussion has changed. It really is a spectrum of injury at the level of the brain. And what the lower end of that is really anybody's guess right now. It certainly is something less than getting knocked out. And we've seen that with the NFL players as well as folks in the military who have been exposed to multiple bomb blasts, IED blasts, and clearly have some signs of brain injury without ever having been knocked out.
The investigators performed standard MRI testing as well as more sensitive tests called diffusion tensor imaging, or DTIs. Dr. Bazarian says DTIs showed the minor changes in the brain they believe may predispose soldiers in combat to post-traumatic stress. The study is published online by the Journal of Head Trauma Rehabilitation. A plan to change the way water levels are regulated on Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River drew hundreds of people to the Quest Elementary School in Hilton Wednesday night and showed up a great divide between shoreline property owners and conservation interests. The International Joint Commission, the U.S. and Canadian panel that sets policy for the Great Lakes, wants to let the lakes seek a more natural pattern of highs and low water levels. The current policy is to try and even out those seasonal variations. IJC spokesman Frank Bavacqua said the environment wasn't being considered when that policy was set up in the 1950s. It's geared to the needs of shipping interests, hydroelectric power, and the lakeshore property owners. Bavacqua says the new plan tries to balance those interests on the U.S. and Canadian sides with those of the environment. Wetlands and fish particularly benefit from natural high and low water cycles, but Bavacqua says it will probably come at the cost of more shoreline erosion. And lakeshore property owners say that cost is too high. They believe they'll face more winter storm erosion and damage to their homes. Many speakers echoed Rod Lowe of the Grandview Beach Association, who called the plan devastating. But the Lake Plains Waterfowl Association said it's 100% behind Plan BV7, as the proposal is known. They say it would restore Buck Pond and Braddock Bay in the town of Greece. The IJC has proposed this sort of change 4 times before. Each time they had to drop it after intense opposition from shoreline residents. Plan BV7 also draws opposition from Democratic Congresswoman Louise Slaughter, who represents most of the shoreline residents from Rochester to Niagara County, and from Monroe County Executive Maggie Brooks. Brooks is the Republican candidate running against Congresswoman Slaughter this fall. Both officials say the risk of damage to homeowners' properties and public infrastructure like water systems and roads is too high. Elsewhere on the waterfront, the Penfield Town Board received plans Wednesday evening for a 358-unit apartment complex and marina, complete with a 3,500-square-foot clubhouse and a pool at 1420 and 1440 Empire Boulevard. South Point Cove would have 10 residential buildings with luxury apartments on the waterfront. Some of the buildings would be up to 4 stories tall. This comes from the Daniele family of Mario's and Basil's restaurant fame. They're funding the $60 million development together with Upstate Brownfield Partners and Morgan Management. It would occupy 26.5 acres at the southern end of Irondequoit Bay. Only about 15 acres of the land would actually be developed in order to preserve wetlands and the natural look of the shore. Part of the land is also a nesting site for bald eagles, which has to be protected. The Penfield Town Board will discuss this at a work session before taking any action. The City of Rochester plans to install 24 charging stations for electric cars at 7 highly visible locations around the city, including municipal parking garages, City Hall, the Port of Rochester, and the public market. This is part of a program announced by Governor Cuomo this week to install more than 325 charging stations for electric cars statewide. The state plans to spend $4.4 million, and it has awarded contracts to 10 companies, municipalities, and other entities to install these facilities. Rochester's will be put in by NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, using some of that state funding. The case of an off-duty Monroe County Sheriff's deputy involved in a DWI case will go to a grand jury. Sergeant Paul Dozer requested through his attorney that the case be waived to the grand jury, and Hamlin Town Justice Richard Moffett agreed on Wednesday. Sergeant Dozer was driving with a friend and the friend's 6-year-old son when he lost control and crashed his car in Hamlin. That would have been a misdemeanor, but for the new Leandra's law, which makes it a felony to be charged with drunken driving if you have a child under the age of 15 in the vehicle. The Roman Catholic Diocese of Rochester has published a list on its website of all priests who have been removed from the ministry since 2002 after being accused of sexual abuse by minors. A statement issued by Bishop Matthew Clark says this is consistent with the commitment to openness and transparency set by U.S. Catholic bishops in 2002. It includes Bishop Clark's apology to anyone hurt by the behavior of some priests in the past and a commitment to actively investigate such cases. The list has 23 names and the disposition of their cases, including those who were dismissed from the priesthood, those who asked to be removed, and cases that still remain unresolved. On this page, you can find links to these and other stories, and at the bottom, links for you to use to post us your own news updates, sports, and salutes. And if you have pictures or short video or news copy for GreeceNYLive.com, you can reach us at submitGreeceNY@cncworldwide.com. Next news as it happens, updates when necessary. I'm Bud Lowell, CNC News.